Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving weekend, and a happy holiday season spent with your friends, loved ones, and take that belt out a notch or two because I know everyone's eating a lot. You know, folks, a lot of stuff has happened in, of course, the LISK case, Long Island serial killer case. And it's sort of just baffling to me. You see the picture on the screen. That is Asa Ellerup and her attorney, Robert Macedonio, and two behind them, no doubt, two other attorneys that work with Robert Macedonio. But the wife and the children of accused Gilgo Beach killer Rex Heuermann, they're going to receive a $1 million payday for participating in a documentary. Asa Ellerup, Heuermann's wife, and their children, Victoria and Christopher, will have their lives chronicled during their estranged patriarch's trial. I don't know. I find this, I don't want to get right to the editorial part of it, but it doesn't really hit well with me. The family of the accused Gilgo Beach killer and Massapequa Park resident Rex Heuermann are set to receive a whopping $1 million payday for their participation in upcoming NBC Peacock documentary. Asa Ellerup, Heuermann's wife, and their children, Victoria and Christopher, they're both adults. I believe that Victoria is 26 and Christopher is 33. So when they keep referring to them as their children, they're adult children. I know your children will always be your children, but they are adults. According to a News Nation report, the reason that Ellerup had not engaged with the media until now was because she had already inked the deal with NBC. There's a reason why she hasn't talked to the media at all, because she has signed a major deal with the documentary crew, again, according to News Nation. The compensation is said to be $1 million. And the attorneys that are representing the family are also believed to be receiving impressive pay for their participation in the documentary as well, with Ellerup's attorney, Robert Macedonio, reportedly having signed a $400,000 deal, and Ves Mitev, who represents the two children, getting $200,000. As Heuermann will not be receiving any money associated with the NBC documentary, the deal with his family is not subject to the state's Son of Sam law that prevent lawbreakers from profiting from selling their stories. And again, Heuermann is innocent till proven guilty. So I don't know your feelings about this, but mine personally are, I don't like this. Is disgusting, I think. And look, the lawyers all softened us up in the very beginning. And what do I mean by that? Well, they softened us up by letting everyone know that Asa Ellerup had cancer, breast cancer, and she was suffering. And their only source of income was, of course, Rex Heuermann, who is now in jail awaiting trial on these horrific charges. However, again, we're going to get into this. Anyway, this is Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Story. You like real crime, true crime from a police perspective. Hold on to your hat. Hold on to your seats. You're about to enter the true crime, the Police Off the Cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch, Michael Byler.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger. Welcome back. So again, The attorney is Robert Macedonio, and the other one, the attorney for the children, his name is Ves Mitev. And I found a picture on the internet that was really a little strange. And check this out. Look at that. Ves Mitev used to be associates with John Ray. So a small world, this lawyer world, isn't it? So the two guys getting paid are Ves Mitev and Robert Macedonio, and poor John Ray doesn't look like he's going to get paid here, you know? And I'm going to get into it also. Weeks ago, we had that press conference given by John Ray with Rodney Harrison standing right at his side, where he alleged Asa Ellerup was involved and was fully knew about this and should be arrested. So what does that say to you now? Well, to me, it says maybe it wasn't true, because if her attorney, Robert Macedonio, is giving her the green light to go ahead and do this documentary, if she had culpability, criminality, if there was any facts and circumstances that would lead the police to arrest her, I think as an attorney, wouldn't he have to advise her not to do this? Because you could incriminate yourself in this documentary. And remember, John Ray said he had 4 witnesses, 2 who signed affidavits. And the media and the podcast world ate that up like a turkey sandwich on Thanksgiving. And I'm not so sure that it was true. And we'll see. But again, this was News Nation when they reported on this case, on Human and his wife signing this this deal, this documentary deal, which it seems a lot of people are getting paid in this documentary deal. We got it. There we go.
Crime doesn't pay. I've heard that so often. That's what they say anyway. We sure hope it doesn't pay, right? It shouldn't. The wrong thing to do. But if the crime is big enough and you're close enough to the action without being locked up yourself, sometimes you can come into money. And so can your lawyers. I call your attention to this week's court appearance in the accused Long Island serial killers case. That's Rex Heuermann, right? The guy who's been brought in and doesn't have bail. That there's his wife in the middle. Reported at the time that she's actually the soon-to-be ex-wife. Her name is Asa Ellerup. She's been struggling financially, and things have been rough for her and her 2 adult kids. But they came to court for the first time in a Mercedes, and there was a TV crew in tow. And tonight we can report exclusively that Ellerup and the couple's 2 children signed a production deal with NBC Peacock for.
I loved it that she was driven to court in a white Mercedes. Whose car do you think that was? Is Robert Macedonio now a $400,000 driver? Is that what he does? Because I believe it was his car. He drove it to court, So now I guess he'll, for 400 grand, he'll do whatever he has to do. He'll drive it to court. He'll take it to court every single day.
A documentary about their ordeal. News Nation's Paula Froelich reports that they're being paid at least $1 million for this. Their lawyers are getting about $600,000, and they may not be the only family pondering a payday like this, because Paula also reports that the family of Brian Kohberger has a similar offer, but has not signed on the dotted line yet. Wow. That's it for us. Have a great weekend. Cuomo's coming up next.
I really have a problem with that. I mean, I really and then she just mentioned that we all been covering the Brian Kohberger case, of course, the Idaho 4. And she, according to Ashley Banfield, the family of Brian Kohberger has not signed on the dotted line. And did they have a bout of conscience? But I mean, in New York, there is something called the Son of Sam laws. And what they were speaking about before was that the Son of Sam laws do not allow for someone who's convicted of a crime to profit from those crimes via a book, a movie, something like that. Henry Hill, years ago, his story of criminality and his life in the mafia was turned into the movie Goodfellas, which we know made a fortune. But there's some issues with that because it's a First Amendment thing. So, but what does that really do though to the victims? That the family of the perpetrator is getting paid for his criminality. There's some kind of there's a problem with that, a moralistic problem. I guess in our society, there's not many morals, but the Son of Sam law prohibits criminals from profiting from writings or shows about their crimes. However, courts have frequently struck down these laws on First Amendment grounds. New York law required criminals' profits from any books, movies to go to the victims. And it was named after Son of Sam was David Berkowitz, who was a serial killer back in late 1970s, 1977. And he had sold his exclusive story rights. The purpose of the law was to prevent those accused of or convicted of a crime from profiting from the commercial exploitation of their crimes by contracting for the production of books, movies, magazine articles, television shows, and the like in which the crime is reenacted or in which the person's thoughts, feelings, opinions, or emotion about the crime are expressed. The law required that any profits obtained from works describing a crime be withheld and made available to the victims. All monies received would be paid to the New York Crime Victims Board and held in escrow for 5 years. To claim the funds, the victim would have to obtain a civil money judgment against the criminal within this period. So that is what has happened in a number of cases when they've enacted the Son of Sam laws to prevent a criminal from profiting from his crimes. But I don't think it covers the family. But morally, here's the two attorneys on the screen. That's Vesmetev, again, who used to work with, there he is right there. He used to work with John Ray. It's a small world after all, So Vesmetev used to be an associate of John Ray, and now seems like he's an associate of Robert Macedonio. These two guys jumped on this case day one, if you remember. They jumped very early because there were allegations that the police, when they executed the search warrants on Rex Uerman's house, that they destroyed the house. And right away, they filed a lawsuit against the Nassau County Police and the Suffolk County Police and everyone that was involved in this. They filed the lawsuit. And these are the two attorneys who were there, and they must have smelled dead presidents on green pieces of paper. They smelled the money because they were there day one. And whoa, lo and behold, all of a sudden, they sign a 7-figure documentary deal. 7 figures. I'm going to play again on a news. Robert Macedonio appears with Ashley Banfield. And I'm going to play a little bit of this on the screen, and we'll see what he has to say here.
Perfect person to ask is Bob Macedonio. He is the attorney for Asa Ellerup, Rex Uerman's wife of 27 years. He was in court with Asa today. Thank you so much, Bob, for coming back on the program. It's good to see you again. So can you sort that out for me? It seemed very odd. I really don't understand what's happening between these two.
Well, I can assure you, Asa was not smiling during the court proceedings. There's nothing to smile about. This is certainly nothing funny.
Apparently Asa Ellerup smiled at Rex Uerman. They exchanged smiles. And I guess this attorney, Bob Macedonio, can interpret what she did. And he assured everyone she didn't smile. But many people that were in the courtroom reported that she smiled. So let's hear what he has to say.
Takes these allegations extremely serious. She did make eye contact with Rex for a very small period of time, probably less than 5 seconds. If there was any facial expression, it's out of nervousness. This is the first time she's ever been in a criminal courthouse, whether it be for Rex or for anybody else. Again, nothing comical about it. There was not a prolonged smile on her face. I sat right next to her. She didn't leave my side the entire day.
Yeah,
So
fair enough.
nothing funny about it.
I'm not sure that our producer who witnessed this thought that she was smiling at the proceedings or thought anything was funny. I think the impression that our producer got was that she was very much smiling at her husband, making the eye contact, and that it seemed like a good connection between them. But many of us can't understand how a wife, what would go through a wife's mind when your husband of 27 years is arrested with just really damning evidence as the Gilgo Beach serial killer. That's why I'm trying to figure out that the smile. Are they good?
Well, first of all, the first time she saw him was last week, and we keep repeating really damning evidence. The only thing that we have, meaning we, you, me, and the entire world population, is what the prosecution has put out in press statements. The defense has said little to nothing. So she's at the point now.
That is so untrue. First of all, the 32-page probable cause affidavit, read that. Page 18, just in itself, could put Rex Human in prison for 25 to life. His searches of child porn sites, all of those things. So 32 pages. So Robert Macedonia, please don't insult our intelligence here. That only thing we've heard. Go read Robert Macedonio, the 32-page probable cause affidavit, and say, oh, only thing out there is what the prosecution says. All right, well, that's not true. Read, as I said, read the damn 32-page probable cause affidavit.
Where she would like to see for herself and hear for herself what are the allegations against her husband. Nobody wants to believe that their spouse, that they laid next to in bed for the 27 years, is capable of these kind of heinous crimes. From the day that he was arrested, she has been told, she brought to the police, command center, your husband did this. You were here. He killed this person, put her there. And she's been processing that, trying to recreate 10, 15 years ago where she was and what happened, which is impossible. So she needs to see and hear it for herself, which I think many of us would have to try to believe our spouse is capable of this kind of heinous crime. She sympathizes for the victims. They certainly didn't deserve to die this way. But again, to think that she slept next to and lived with a murderer, a serial killer, she needs to process that on her own, not believe what everybody else is telling her.
Fair enough. I would have it myself, and we're different. I would have a tough time giving a big smile. I would just be very stone-faced, I think, until I saw.
I can assure you there was no big smile. It certainly is nothing to laugh at. She takes it serious.
Yeah.
And there was no, if anything, it might have been a nervous reaction or facial expression. There's no smile.
Okay, that's fair enough. Let's talk about the documentary crews. We're all fascinated about the truck that arrived and loaded in all the camera equipment. And then at court today, the documentary crew was in tow. Tell me about what's going on.
I can't comment on any of that because I'm not at liberty to discuss any of that. So I honestly don't know.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know, but he got 400 large for himself, but he does not know. And Vesmetev, his associate, got 200,000, but I don't know. I honestly am not at liberty to discuss that. I don't know. I honestly don't use the word honestly, attorney, please.
You didn't work with her. I mean, I would think she would seek counsel before engaging with any kind of documentary crew, right?
I'm not at liberty to discuss any of that. What's going on with that? She was there to see the proceedings for herself. And that's why she went with me.
You know how attorneys lie? It's like that's what they do. That's their job, But the fact that he got 400 large, Vesmetev got 200, and he got them 7 figures, but he knows nothing of it. Oh, she negotiated that deal herself? Wow. She's got a law degree, and she's an excellent negotiator. She got 7 figures, and you got 4, and he got 2. Ooh, 1.6 million. But you're not at liberty to discuss it.
All right, fair to say. So the other quick question is, and it's a tough one, there have been some allegations by the police commissioner, by Attorney John Ray, that Asa had some knowledge about the sex workers, was somehow actively involved. These are pretty rough allegations. Just want to get your thoughts on that.
My thought on that, and then she spent a good time, listening to John Ray and his press conferences and also the numerous podcasts that spun off from that. John Ray has spent the past 12 years, and Rex Human is the third individual he's accused of being involved in the homicide of his client. He first accused businessman Jimmy Bissett. Then he went on to former police chief James Burke. Now that there's been an arrest of Rex Human, he now wants to have Rex Human tied to these. John Ray is looking for a civil defendant to attach to his client so he could recoup some of the tens of thousands of dollars he spent out of his pocket. Asa Ellerup is not involved in this, was not involved in this, is not a suspect. The DA's office has emphatically stated at their numerous press conferences and bail applications, she was not in the jurisdiction when these crimes took place. She is not a suspect. She was out of the country, either in Iceland or out of New York State when the alleged homicides took place. So even, hypothetically speaking, she knew about sex workers. She's not alleged to have been involved in knowing about any of the homicides. It's two different factions.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, she didn't know about sex workers. There was no sex workers at the house when she was there. It's just John Ray, a figment of his imagination, creating stuff to, honestly, the press gives him more attention than he deserves.
Well, Bob, you are a good advocate for your client, and I'm very appreciative of you being on with me tonight. Thank you.
Amazing, right? But as I said before, these two, Vesmetev and Robert Macedonio, they got paid, right? And John Ray did not get paid. So perhaps Robert Macedonio was correct. John Ray wants his day. He wants his payday. And he's going to do what he has to do, just like you just did, Robert Macedonio. This, to me, is ugly. This documentary and look, I know the family's broke. Their only source of income was Rex, who is not getting out of jail or prison anytime soon. But morally, how about NBC Peacock? They surely don't care. This is all about dead presidents to them too, on green pieces of paper, in case you guys never heard that expression before. That's a New York expression. They all care about the Benjamins, as they say. They're going for the big bucks, and no one is concerned with, look, this says it all to me. Vesmetev work with or for John Ray in his own law firm. So they all know each other. This is all, about, getting paid. And here's, remember early on when the police did those search warrants on Rex Human's house, and right away, a lawsuit was filed by the family for allegedly wrecking their house. And there's John Ray there with some members of the victims' families. How about the victims in this case? Where are their rights? And again, I'll put them on the screen. This is what became known as the Gilgo Four: Melissa Barthelemy, Amberlynn Costello, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, and Megan Waterman. I mean, so Rex Human's going to go to trial, at least on 3 of them right now. In fact, they don't have enough yet, I believe, to charge Maureen Brainerd Barnes, but Melissa Barthelemy, Amberlynn Costello, and Megan Waterman, they're going to go ahead and they're going to prosecute those cases. But what is Asa Ellerup and her children, what are they going to say? What is it they're going to say during this documentary? They go, oh, that was a rough day in court. Oh, the prosecutor was really tough on Rex. We don't think he did it. What are they going to say? What is it going to uncover? Just the sensationalism, just a live serial killer reality show, a live serial killer reality show. How ugly is that? Is that pretty ugly? I think so. So then a couple of weeks ago, or 1 month ago, when John Ray had that press conference with Rodney Harrison, standing at his side with, admittedly, Rodney Harrison's body language, I don't think was buying what John Ray was selling, and everyone bought it. Oh, they signed affidavits. What does that mean? All an affidavit means is that the affiant, the person swearing to it, believes it's true to the best of their knowledge. But could it be a lie? Absolutely. And we spoke about it. There was stuff that they could vet, like we spoke about. I'm not going to get deep into that. What I wanted to get into was, is this morally okay? Now, where have we gone to as a society that no one cares about these victims on the screen? It's now the sensationalism of shooting this documentary and getting paid. NBC Peacock, that, they want ratings, they want money, they want advertisers, And there's Shannon Gilbert on the screen. Again, her case has never been solved. We don't know if it's part of this. There's some of the victims' families walking with John Ray out of court. Has anyone thought about these victims? And again, is this even legal in regards to the Son of Sam law? Could someone attach a lawsuit to this money that Asa Ellerup and her children are going to receive for partaking in this documentary? I don't know. I'm not an attorney. Is there any possibility? But a month ago, when John Ray stood up and gave that press conference, and everyone in the media, hook, line, and sinker, bought it. New suspect, new information. Asa Ellerup is involved. Now, not so much. All of a sudden, in the court of public opinion, she's been exonerated. How about the GoFundMe, which I understand raised up to $56,000? Now it's been shut down because no one is going to give money any longer to someone who just signed $1 million contract for a documentary on the case of a serial killer who happens to be her husband. I want to play a little bit of John Ray from his press conference. And again, listen to this, because if this is true, then how could Asa Ellerup have signed $1 million deal to do a documentary at NBC Peacock? Would her attorney have let her do that if there was any truth to her involvement? And again, Robert Macedonio, her attorney, said the police and the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office cleared her because during all of these murders, she was out of the country. But I also question, how did they know the exact date of the murders? How did they determine that? When the victims went missing? How did they determine that on a very specific date? And because they don't know the specific dates, how did they know that she was out of the country? And I questioned early on, how did she get cleared so quickly? Look, they were on to Rex Schumann for, I believe it was 14 months before they took the case down, before they made the arrest, and they probably would have taken longer, but they were worried. They were worried that he could strike again, and they would be, because he was calling escorts again. His behavior was continuing. So they took the case down. Did they really do a thorough investigation on Asa Ellerup, Rex Schumann's wife? How did they clear her so quickly? That is one of the things I questioned. I questioned it early on. I'm not convinced. And one of the things I know a lot of you guys, and she's a sympathetic character, because if she was with Rex Schumann for, in essence, I don't know, they said 27 years, she was subject to some type of abuse. If it wasn't physical, it was absolutely mental abuse. Did she look the other way at his behavior? One of the things that people don't want to hear either is that they filed a lawsuit that the police, in executing the search warrant, destroyed their house. From what I understand from talking to a police official, that house was disgusting. Like, I couldn't believe that human beings lived in it. One of those type of houses. The clutter. There was no space. There was no room to do anything in that house. It was filthy. All right. So it was almost laughable that they filed a lawsuit that the police destroyed their house. The house was already destroyed. And I know everyone wants to believe, oh, you're picking on this poor lady that's sick. I'm just stating facts that doesn't come out because you see attorneys in expensive suits file lawsuits. But the reality of it, there they are, Robert Macedonio and Vesmeteb. And I said they were on the scene really quickly during this to file these lawsuits. Let me put a little bit of John Ray on. And let's, again, his press conference, if the stuff that he brought forth was true, then how could Asa Ellerup get this gig? Or would her attorney allow her to do this? I don't believe so. I really don't believe so.
Rex Heuermann and the other girl. The other girl who we believe to be Karen Vergata. This girl disappears downstairs at the house.
Again, this press conference, he's outlining a story that the witness, the affiant, if you will, that signed this affidavit about this story, she's signing this affidavit about something that happened 27 years ago. And you heard him just spit it out. The woman that was with them was Karen Vergata. Like, I didn't find that very believable, but there were ways to vet this information. So let me play this again. You'll hear him say that again.
Came in the car with the two of them. They went to Massapequa Park. Before they got there, they stopped at a gas station, and the girl who was with them expressed some apprehension about where they were going and why. That was all wiped out when it was pointed out that he's a police detective, so don't worry, no problem. They ended up going to Rex Heuermann's house. In the house was the wife of Rex Heuermann and Rex Heuermann and the other girl. The other girl who we believe to be Karen Vergata. This girl disappears downstairs at the house. Rex Heuermann disappears. And according to our witness and other witnesses I've talked to, when men are swingers with their
when you watch this press conference and you read Rodney Harrison's body language, clearly he's uncomfortable with being there. Clearly, just based on his body language, he's not saying anything. I don't think he believes this. I really don't.
Partner, very often they switch sexually. They go back and forth between male and female. And so Heuermann leaves the main floor and disappears either into another bedroom or downstairs. It's not clear. And the witness talks to Rex's wife. She doesn't want to have sex like she had expected to occur because our client believes because our client is an African-American woman. And Heuermann didn't like that. Ellerup, rather, didn't like that. So there was no sex between them, as was originally planned. Instead, the sex is between Heuermann and the other man. At some point, the witness goes looking for her partner and is kind of upset that he doesn't emerge. He emerges, and finally, they leave, and kind of in a hurry. But when they leave, as they're leaving, the witness points out that she could see in the window, looking out, the girl that had come with them. And she says to her driver, her partner, "What are we doing? Are we taking her?" And the partner says, "Don't worry. They're just playing a game. She stays there. No problem." With that, the girl runs out of the house naked and is running in front of the garage. And now the witness says, "Hey, shouldn't we be taking her? Something's wrong here." And the driver tells her, "Nah, they're just playing a game. Leave it." And they leave. She never hears about the incident again. She distinctly remembers Heuermann. She also had intercourse with Heuermann that same day. And she kind of buries it. It forgets.
So I'm asking you, the people in the chat here, if this is true, and there's several ways to determine whether or not this is true or absolutely false. And one of the ways is they said that that woman, and this case happened 27 years ago, and they said when they picked up the woman who they said was Karen Vergata, she had just gotten out of jail. So there's one of the things they could check. They could see if Karen Vergata got arrested 27 years ago in New York City, because that's where they picked her up, and that's where she said she was arrested. One thing they could vet. Two, allegedly the male that was with them was a New York City narcotics detective. Do they know who he is? I don't know of that. And that's another thing they can vet. So there's things, the times, the places, they can absolutely vet what occurred. And these are the things that we're talking about, that we're trying to get, like, well, what is it that what is it that cleared her? That attorney Robert Macedonio says that yeah, she's cleared to do this documentary because she has absolutely no involvement. In fact, the police said this. The Suffolk County District Attorney's Office said this. So I would have to believe that, yes, she is cleared. And then that would mean that John Ray's witnesses are not believed, wouldn't it? Isn't that what that means? Or am I wrong? You guys tell me in the chat. I would have to believe that this cleared her in some way, that she doesn't have any culpability with this. So he signed her on to do a documentary with NBC Peacock.
September, dressed in a coat and tie, his hands cuffed behind him. He said very little at the brief hearing on scheduling matters. It was his estranged wife, Asa, who really stole the show. She showed up today for the first time ever at one of Heuermann's court hearings, her appearance turning the routine matter into a media scramble. Ellerup filed for divorce from Heuermann just 6 days after his July arrest for the murders of 3 women. He is a prime suspect in the 4th. Their bodies were found more than a decade ago, dumped along a remote section of Gilgo Beach. Heuermann has pleaded not guilty to the charges. News Nation correspondent Laura Ingle joins us now live from outside the courthouse where it all happened. Laura, how did Ellerup act once she was in court?
Again, if that doesn't bother you, seeing Asa Ellerup going to court with a camera crew following her, with her attorney, Robert Macedonio, with 2 other assistant attorneys, it's a circus. It's like the reality shows that some of us, I guess, say, I can't watch them on TV, watch on TV. It's like the latest thing. So this is going to be the latest reality show, the court case of the Long Island serial killer. It's going to be the next reality show. Is that what this is?
This was unusual to have her there.
It really was. This was a really interesting day, Elizabeth. We've only previously seen his wife, Asa, outside of their Massapequa Park home, basically telling reporters to go away. I've been one of them. But today she showed up at court and she was surrounded by this huge scrum. As you reported there, a lot of people tailing her.
I think that's Robert Macedonio's, the car she's getting out of his Mercedes. I guess he becomes an Uber driver. For 400 large, he'll go from attorney to Uber driver.
To the courthouse as she went in. But today, her attorney had said she was not emotionally ready to see her husband in court when he was first arrested. But now she is ready to see him. She's emotionally ready. Asa Ellerup arrived this morning with her attorney and this film crew in tow. And while it's not confirmed, it's widely reported that she is working with a documentary team about the case. All of it causing that media frenzy that you see. She didn't offer any comment. Once inside the courtroom, we watched her observe her husband, who stood in the well of the court with his hands in cuffs behind his back while the judge talked with attorneys on scheduling and discovery matters. And this is the second time that Asa Ellerup has seen her husband in just the last week. She visited him in jail last Wednesday for the first time since his arrest in July. And while Heuermann's defense attorney and her attorney wouldn't reveal what they talked about, they did offer this.
My understanding is that she doesn't believe that he was capable or committed these acts. He certainly appreciates that support.
And I think, like anybody with their spouse, you don't want to believe they're capable of this. He's accused of some heinous crimes, and she wants to see and hear the evidence in the courtroom, not the media or the podcasts.
And I can say that Asa did give him a slight smile when he turned around before he went back behind closed doors. Then she left again without any comment. He will be back in court on February 6th, and it's our understanding that she might start attending these hearings moving forward. Elizabeth?
All right. Laura Ingle with the drama outside and inside court today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
So amazing, right? The drama. She wants to go to court to see for herself. That would have been believable if she. Well, obviously, the documentary team is not going to be allowed to go into the courtroom with their cameras, but she can film on breaks. She can film when she leaves the courtroom. What happened in court today? Because you can bet she's going to get her money's worth. Well, they're going to get their money's worth out of her. How the family is dealing with this. And look, there's of course parts of this that are tragic. It is tragic, but it's been made into a media circus somehow, and the whole point, even public relations wise, I think that they've been advising Asa Ellerup how to look, how to dress. She looks a hell of a lot much better. That's her son on the screen right now, Christopher Sheridan. He's 33 years old. And in the next picture is her daughter with Victoria Ewerman, Rex Ewerman's biological daughter. And that's Asa Ellerup in that picture too. She looks much better here in this picture, walking next to her attorney, than she did in some of the pictures when we saw her in front of the house. Granted, we all realize that quite a stressful situation to have your husband arrested and to be called a serial killer. Just absolutely horrendous. But, it's in the court of public opinion. Do we believe that she knew nothing of this? That's a big question, Do we believe that Asa Ellerup knew nothing about this case, that she was totally shocked when her husband Rex was arrested and he's being called the Long Island serial killer? Was she shocked? Or, I find it hard to believe that he didn't have aberrant behavior toward his family, that he was father knows best, that he was Robert Young. I don't believe that. I believe that he demonstrated some really poor behavior toward his family.
Serial killer due in court today. Rex Heuermann, the man charged with those murders of 3 women who were killed more than a decade ago, is also the prime suspect now in a 4th killing. Laura Engel live outside the courthouse in Riverhead, New York, with an update on a case that's captivated Long Island residents and the nation for years. Laura.
Good morning. While today's court appearance by Rex Heuermann is considered a conference, not a hearing, we are expecting a key moment to happen inside of the courtroom here behind us this morning. His wife, Asa Ellerup, is expected to be here today for the very first time for one of his legal proceedings. This after her very first jail visit she had with him last week.
This was the first time she's seen Rex in person since he was arrested. I'm sure it was emotional. She was very, anxious up all night long before, and she didn't see her husband almost 4 months, so she wanted to see him in person.
Asa Ellerup's attorney Robert Macedonio says his client is now emotionally ready to see her husband in court as he faces charges in the murders of 3 victims in the Long Island serial killer case.
The only thing that she knows about this case has been what's reported in the media and what's been told to her by the police department the night that he was arrested. So she has said numerous times she wants to hear and see the evidence as it plays out in the courtroom, not listen to the podcast, not listen to the news media reports, and certainly not listen to Johnny Ray.
The Massapequa home on Long Island, where the couple has lived for decades, is now the center of speculation by some as a place where Hewerman may have brought escorts, some even insinuating that his wife may have been aware of her husband's activities.
Mrs. Ellerup was present in this tiny little home when that occurred. I have a witness, firsthand knowledge of that. The witness refuses to come forward. So the Ellerup family comes forward and says, help us, give us money. What about the victims who were chopped up?
All kinds of people have been saying that she.
You know, Martha Miner, I wanna just highlight what you said in the chat. Hi, everyone. If I'm not mistaken, Bill, wasn't the wife cleared at the beginning of this case? I still believe Attorney John Ray and the information he found out. Thank you, Martha, for your comments. Yes, the police did say they have no evidence that she was involved in this, and they cleared her at the very beginning. But clearing her was based on the fact that they believed she was out of the country when these crimes occurred. And my question is, and I don't know this, I didn't work on this investigation. How did they know she was out of the country? How did they pinpoint the dates when these murders actually occurred? All I think they really knew was the dates that these victims went missing. That could be very different than the dates they were killed. So she was out of the country during the dates. So I'm just questioning. And yes, Martha, the Suffolk County Police, the Suffolk County DEA's office said they had no reason to charge Asa Ellerup with these crimes. Now, John Ray comes in, and Martha, to your point also, has 4 witnesses, 2 who signed affidavits saying that Asa Ellerup was very much involved. So who do we believe? Do we believe the Suffolk County District Attorney, the Suffolk County Police, the Suffolk County Task Force, or do we believe John Ray, who has these 2 witnesses who signed affidavits outlining what occurred? So those are the questions I have. And again, I believe if Robert Macedonio cleared, and that's Robert Macedonio is the attorney for Asa Ellerup, if he cleared her to sign on with NBC Peacock to do this documentary, then he's pretty confident she has no involvement, and because she could say things that could implicate her in these murders. But he's confident enough to sign this, and she signed for 7 figures.
Might have known what was going on in the house. She may have been taking part of things that were going on in the house.
She has no part in any of this. She didn't. To say she was home with the children upstairs, these allegations go back 10, 12, 14, 15 years ago. Victoria's 26 years old.
They actually go back 27 years in the case of Karen Vergata. And the case, the story that John Ray told at the press conference that he has a witness that signed an affidavit. That goes back 27 years because Karen Vergata disappeared 27 years ago.
That would put her at 10 years old, 12 years old. To say that you have prostitute downstairs in your house when you're upstairs with your child, and it's a very small house. There are no soundproof rooms, contrary to what was reported in the media, is absolutely ludicrous. It makes no sense. It just never happened.
And it's important to note Rex Hewerman has pleaded not guilty in this case. And as you mentioned there at the top, he is the prime suspect for a 4th victim. There are, of course, many more victims in the Long Island serial killer case. The court proceedings expected to get started in just about an hour. So we'll wait to see not only about Rex Hewerman's wife being inside of the courtroom. Last time we were here, we saw victims' family members inside of the courtroom as well. We'll bring you more as we get it here in Riverhead. Back to you,
Laura, and also too, I mean, that attorney speaking about how small the house is, you have to wonder, how did he get away with it? What was happening if it wasn't a soundproof room? Oh my gosh, so many questions.
Right.
Okay. Go ahead. No, I want you to say what you want to. What were you going to say just now?
Well, what I was going to say is that, this sound, the idea of this soundproof room, I think that it's been alleged because there is a gun safe that Rex Heuermann had. We know that he had a lot of guns, over 200 guns in that house. So he had this very large gun safe in the basement. Is that the soundproof room that people are talking about? That is something that is going to come to light here in court. And one of the key notes that Robert Macedonio made there is that his wife doesn't know a lot about the case. It's what she's been hearing. So she wants to be here inside of the courtroom where all of this is going to be discussed today at this conference between the judge and the attorneys. And that is definitely something that has been talked about in this case. And we just don't know if that's what they're referencing, if it's the gun safe or if there's something else. But we'll find out as this case moves forward.
Right. And I know you'll bring it to us. Thank you so much.
So you hear all of this stuff, and there's some good questions in the chat. This goes back 27 years ago. And my big thing, and I know I keep harping on it over and over again, is that if Asa Ellerup is cleared by the Gilgo Beach Task Force, let's just call it that, because that entails the Suffolk County Police, the Suffolk County DA's office, the New York State Police, right? The Nassau County Police, the Suffolk County Sheriff, and the Suffolk County DA's office investigate. If she's cleared by all of those people, then how could what John Ray said have any basis in truth? And that would have had to been vetted by, she reported that, right? You think that, John Ray reported that in his press conference, and he has the signed affidavit from two witnesses. I'm telling you, yes, this would happen. The Suffolk County detectives, the task force, go investigate that information. And someone said in the chat just a little time before, when Rodney Harrison first took over as the Suffolk County Police Commissioner, he hooked up right away with Johnny Ray, and he's been working alongside him. That was the smartest thing to do. I think that was brilliant, because down the road, John Ray can't say, no one even talked to me. Well, yes, Rodney Harrison spoke to you. He spoke to you about this case. And if you had any information that was pertinent to this investigation, please come forth with it. This is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed to us, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and ring that bell. And if you want to support us financially, we have a Patreon with 3 different levels. And we also have a YouTube channel membership with, count them, 5 different levels. And we appreciate all our friends, our subscribers, and all the people that support Police Off the Cuff throughout the year, and especially throughout this holiday season. We so appreciate you guys and everything you do for us. Mary Murphy from PIX did some of the best reporting on this case. And I always play a little bit of this. And this was the report by Mary Murphy. It's on the screen right now. It's just loading up, folks. It should be coming on any second now. If it doesn't, I'll remove it. So yeah, Mary Murphy with WPIX did an outstanding reporting job on this. And
for better
there we
DNA
go.
technology, and the hope that a tip would come in that would change everything.
The Gilgo Beach Task Force tracked Rex Heuermann for more than a year with physical and digital surveillance. A 32-page court affidavit claimed prosecutors had images of Heuermann buying extra minutes on his burner phones, hoping they weren't traceable. But experts did eventually trace his burners, they say, and some victims' phones to cell sites near Heuermann's place of work in Midtown Manhattan, and 4 cell towers in Massapequa Park that were close to his home.
And that was mapped out. That was called the box.
It wasn't easy, Mary. Very, very difficult work.
Once Heuermann was identified as the person of interest,
We executed over 300 subpoenas, search warrants pertaining to this individual.
that allowed the task force to check Huerman's phone records and his online activity.
In a 14-month period.
On what's on the screen right now, these are the sites that Rex Huerman was searching on his computer. Could law enforcement not trace calls made by the Gilgo Beach serial killer? Why hasn't the Long Island serial killer been caught? Long Island serial killer phone call. And then there's a whole page with all of the child porns and the porn sites that he searched on his computer, which in itself could get him arrested if he wasn't the number one suspect in this.
Period. He had over 200 searches pertaining to the Gilgo investigation.
And by using fake online profiles, Huerman also allegedly searched for 6 subjects like torture porn and child porn.
He's a demon. He's an animal. He's just somebody that should not be around other human beings.
So when Robert Macedonio said that Asa Ellerup has no idea what occurred, this document, this 32-page document put out by the Suffolk County DA's office, Ray Tierney, going over all the probable cause that they had to make this arrest, including on page 18 and 19 of this 32-page report, the searches he was conducting on his computer. That's not a podcast. That's not the news. That was put out by the district attorney's office. And if she didn't read that, that's her own fault, because it's out there for everyone. You could print it up. Just go on the computer and put probable cause affidavit, Long Island serial killer, and you can read it yourself.
Nailed with his own DNA and that of his wife. After collecting 11 bottles from the family trash in 2022, investigators swabbed them for genetic material. Lab results this year indicated female hairs found on 3 victims' bodies likely came from female DNA in the Huerman household or car. The linchpin that sealed up the case happened when cops snatched a pizza box that Rex Huerman allegedly tossed in a trash can near his Midtown office. When scientists tested the DNA recovered from the uneaten pizza crust, they say it matched DNA from the burlap used to wrap victim Megan Waterman.
When we come back, an in-depth.
So pretty amazing. And everyone always asks that question also. Well, if Asa Ellerup's hair was found on some of the Gilgo victims, at least 3 of her hairs were found, then why is she not a suspect? And that's pretty easy to explain, because it's called transfer evidence. And if he had those burlap bags in his house, it would make sense that her hair could be transferred onto it, and that she didn't. That doesn't prove any involvement in any of these cases. But it's a good question that everyone asks. That it's called transfer evidence. And look, you're married, you have kids. Chances are you have DNA from your kids on you, on your clothing, in your car, your wife's DNA on you, whether it's hair, and it's transferred from your furniture, from anywhere inside your house. So that is a very good question by you guys, but it doesn't implicate her and say, oh, she was involved in this because her hair follicles were found on one or more of the bodies in this case. Folks, if you're looking for a great attorney in the New York metropolitan area, then Joe Murray is your man. Joe's a fantastic defense attorney, and he's also a retired NYPD police officer. You can reach Joe on his cell phone at 718-514-3855. Email him at joe@jmurray-law.com, or go on his website, jmurray-law.com. Not only is Joe a fantastic defense attorney, but he is also a huge supporter of the Police Off the Cuff podcast. And we appreciate everything Joe has done for us in backing us up here. And it's Linda Lou. No, I believe it was on the hair was on those what were described as those like burlap bags. Could there have been hair on duct tape? duct tape is a very good surface to collect evidence as well as fingerprints at times. In northern Manhattan, in Washington Heights, they used to have home invasions all the time. And the home invaders would use duct tape. And frequently, the investigators would get fingerprints off the duct tape. So yes, it's pretty amazing. So I know I want to keep Mel Stiller. When there's more than one person in the house, there'll be transferred DNA. It's only commonsensical. Mel Stiller, you're absolutely correct. That is so true. Fuzzy Doxy, I can say I believe the woman that said she was at the house. I mean, a dumpy red house. Rex and his wife plus the girl running out. Too dramatic to forget. Fuzzy Doxy, that's very possible. But right now, has it been vetted? They've cleared. If that is true, or for any part of it is true, I believe that they could revisit this. But so far, they've cleared Asa Ellerup. Emma, Asa has never looked happier. Spotlight on her. Well, I think that, I think it's disturbing. Jay, I guess Asa has to shut down the pity party. Blaming the investigators for her hurt of a house wasn't a good look. Jay, I happen to agree with you. Many people were touched early on in this investigation by the plight of Asa Ellerup, the fact that she had cancer, that they just lost their source of income with her husband, Rex Heuermann, the children's father, Rex Heuermann, being arrested. Doesn't look like he's getting out anytime soon or ever, right? So they lost their source of income. But does that still make it okay to do this documentary? I ask you guys that. I mean, I ask you guys, is that okay? Is there something morally not okay with this? I believe, yeah. I mean, look at, she's going to court purportedly to see her husband. It's the first time she's gone to the court, and she's being followed by a camera crew that's shooting a documentary on her. There's something wrong with that, There's John Ray on the screen, a very colorful guy. Again, John Ray in the press conference. And the attorney standing next to Rex Heuermann, of course, Michael Brown. I mean, and this case, of course, Shannon Gilbert, and that's the client, the whole family of Shannon Gilbert were the client of John Ray, who's continuously tried to keep this case alive. And to his credit, that is what kept the police on this case, kept the police digging. Early on, they would have, look, there was not a lot of effort put into this case early on. You could believe that it's because the victims were escorts. You could believe it's because there was a lot of corruption in the Suffolk County Police, Chief James Burke. We could see that there was very little resources assigned to this case. When Rodney Harrison got out to Suffolk County, there was one detective assigned to this case. Can you believe that? DeVoe on BDO, something about this documentary smelled like plans from the jump, which would explain everything, but still seems even weirder if you really dwell on it. Yeah, these attorneys don't jump on a case because they're great human beings and because they feel bad for clients. Some do, some do. They do cases for free. This obviously was not a case that Robert Macedonia was looking to do for free. He knew there was some way that he was going to get paid, and one of the ways he's going to get paid was going to be to sue the police departments that conducted the search warrant on Rex Heuermann's house. So, and again, the connection between Ves Matev, who is the attorney for Victoria Heuermann and Christopher Sheridan, the children of Rex Heuermann. He used to work with John Ray. Okay. So there are connections, and there's the house there. we could see obviously that house is in a huge, judging from the outside, a huge state of disrepair, owned by an architect. What was he thinking? And that on the screen now is the son of Rex Human, Christopher Sheridan, and the daughter, his actually biological daughter, Victoria Human, sitting next to her mother, Asa Ellerup. So I tried to raise a lot of good questions here because I have a lot of questions here. And one of the things that Ashley Banfield reported was that in the Idaho quadruple case, Brian Koberger, his family was offered to do a documentary, and apparently they turned it down, which I think that's a good thing. Emma, Asa has never spoken to the families of the victims to say she's sad they lost their lives. That speaks volumes. Well, if she did that, I guess she would have to sort of admit that her husband is guilty. And so maybe that's why she hasn't done that. Exeter Line, 1930, assuming she's innocent, the media, public have been putting her through hell. If innocent, I can't blame her for trying to recoup her losses from media. Well, something, desperate situations sometimes dictate desperate moves that you're willing to do. Light walkers, thank God for John Ray at this juncture. Throws a nice monkey wrench in the fabric that's woven here. She could receive disability for breast cancer, Social Security disability, that is. DP Singe, exactly, lots of potential lawsuits on this case. Well, one of the things I mentioned earlier on, because of the Son of Sam law, and I'm not an attorney, so I don't know, but could Asa Ellerup be paid this money? And could the family or families of the victims sue to get part of her money because she was telling a story about their family members who were victims? Interesting. And that's why the Son of Sam law was pursued in New York State, but many have challenged it based on freedom of speech, and some have been able to beat it. Luna Lady, I guess I would ask if Mrs. H talks or any of the deceased victims are featured. The families or should be adequately compensated or sue for profits. They are the victims. Mrs. H is living, not dead. I think that Luna Lady, you're right, but it's a complicated legal issue, one of which I'm not qualified to answer. I was hoping I could have Michael Geary on tonight, and he could talk about this. One last thing I wanted to talk about: Keith Jesperson, also known as the Happy Face Killer, who recently admitted to his 8th serial murder, said he is now pen pals with Rex Human. Is that disturbing also? Suspected Gilgo Beach serial killer Rex Human purportedly complained about jail food and exercise conditions and fretted that guards might be reading his mail, according to a handwritten letter that Jesperson forwarded to the Lighter Side of Serial Killers podcast host and author Keith Rover. Is that somewhat disturbing? I think it is. I think it is. Bella Finn, thank you so much for your super sticker before. That's probably because it was his family home, his father's place, plus Rex's sister as well owned a home at one stage across the road. So again, the exchanging letters with the Happy Face Killer. You cannot make this stuff up, It's really disturbing. So that's going to be my show tonight, guys. And I just wanted to raise a few questions that I haven't seen anyone else raise about this 7-figure documentary fee, and the fact that Asa Ellerup has agreed to do this, and that the attorneys Robert Macedonio and Vesmetev had also signed for $400,000 and $200,000 if the reports the press put out are accurate. And you'll never get a confirmation from Robert Macedonio or Vesmetev, but so 7 figures for Asa Ellerup, $400,000 for Robert Macedonio, and $200,000 for Vesmetev. And again, I find this a little bit disturbing that a live documentary, as the case goes on, is being conducted. Well, that's my show for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you on the next time. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff. Good night and be safe.
One episode